What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Jake Karls of Midday Squares. If you haven't tried them out, try them at your local grocery store. My favorite is the cookie dough. The problem with me, Jake, is I just want to eat 10 at a time. That's the issue. Before I formally introduce Jake, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. Since this is a top CPG brand, we had Cameron Healy on, who's the co-founder of Kona Brewing, and he was a visionary behind Kettle Chips Empire. Check that out. It was interesting. We'll talk about some of the challenges, which are fascinating with Jake's story. And I remember Cameron was talking about how like all the oil one day spoiled and they had to throw out like all the potato. It was just like a nightmare situation. And sometimes we see these brands on the shelves like, oh, everything's hunky-dory and perfect. They have challenges along the journey too. So Tom Bilyeu shared, the founder of Quest Nutrition, shared the journey. Duncan Olney talked about kind of brand impact for growing CPG on social. So we'll talk, check those out and many more on InspiredInsider.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in two ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, accountability, and the full execution. Number two, we're also an easy button for a company's corporate gifting. We make gifting easy. You just send us the addresses. We do everything else around it. We're kind of, Jake, we call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background to make it look easy for people to build amazing relationships by featuring them on a show to share with the world what they're working on, and also sending them sweet treats in the mail. So we'll have to add Midday Squares to those packages. I'm excited to introduce Jake Karls. And Jake Karls is the co-founder and chief rainmaker of Midday Squares. Midday Squares is the better-for-you chocolate snacking brand that turned a kitchen table dream into a North American household name. And, to your credit, Jake, I think I heard about Midday Squares. Two people told me about it. Tiffany Wilborn of Clever Disruption, who's a fractional CMO for CPG. She's like, they're doing cool stuff. You got to check them out. And then Taja Dockendorf, I think you were featured on her podcast, Pulp and Wire, and she specializes in design for CPG. So they told me, I was walking around the aisle, I see it, I buy several of them and love them. So now when I walk by there, that's what I get. So it always comes from that personal connection. That's what Jake is all about. He was a finalist for Ernst & Young's Entrepreneur of the Year Award, was also on the Forbes 30 Under 30. And we'll talk about the journey. 6 years ago, making 50 bars a day, and they recently posted, whenever you're listening to this, you may be listening to this 5 years from now, it's going to be triple this, but last week they hit 130,000 bars in a single day. Jake, thanks for joining me.
I appreciate you having me. I'm fired up to be here. There's sunlight out. I feel like I'm getting burnt because the sun is in my face, even though I'm indoors. And excited to be here. I appreciate you having me, and I'm excited to get into the good stuff.
I'm going to share my screen here. This is going to be video for anyone listening to the audio as well. These delicious bars. We have to show them on the screen here. But let's talk about the 50 bar days, like when it first started. What did life look like in the very beginning? And I know you're with, this is a family, quote unquote, family business.
Yeah. So my sister, my brother-in-law, and I started this company in August of 2018. And it was actually way before that, but we launched it then. And we came together and we wanted to build a modern day snacking company that's in the better for you space, a brand that's trusted for the afternoon snacking that has, chocolate bars. We call our first line a chocolate bar with some function. And the idea was
it the brownie batter? Was the brownie batter
it was the brownie batter. We were making them in our condo kitchen, hand making these bars, maximum 50 bars per day. And the idea was we want to build the next biggest snacking business of our time. And people thought we were crazy. People, made fun of us. They doubted us. Everyone would tell us, the world doesn't need another chocolate bar. The world doesn't need another protein bar, even though we're not either of those. We're kind of like a blend of both of them. But we had this, unconditional self-belief that we could do it. So we blocked out all the noise, and, we just started to do things day by day, hand making the bars, taking content of how we do it, and then delivering them at night by hand and meeting our customers. And we start to compound that, and, went from 50 bars a day to 100 to 200. Now, like you said last week, 6 years later, we're making up, 130,000 bars a day. But, this journey's been painful. And what I mean by painful is it's just part of the process. It's the middle of everything. It's the middle that's all the juice, And we ended up going to build our factory, which is a cool thing because not a lot of food companies do that. So yeah, I'll never forget those condo days when we were hand making them. We still have the same values and principles, or more or less similar ones from those moments. But that was when we really hustled 16, 18-hour days, and it was quite chaotic.
So you're making them in the kitchen. Where do you sell them early on? Are you going to a farmer's market? Where'd you get the initial sales?
So we started selling them on our website, D2C. We were selling a sample. So one bar you can get it was 25 cents at the time. We just wanted people to put their credit card down so that they could actually commit to wanting to try. And then we would hand deliver them, because it was only in Montreal region where we were selling them in local city, because no one else knew us. And we'd hand deliver, meet the customer at nighttime, and understand why they bought it, and kind of what they like, what they don't like, and find out how they even found us. And a lot of the time they found us by watching us on social media. Since day one, we've been documenting and sharing, practically everything on social media, from moments of complete chaos and failure to some of the most glorified and crazy experiences of our journey, where we've had huge successes. In our opinion, doesn't mean it's huge for other people, but in our opinion, it was huge moments. And when we showed the spectrum of good and bad, people really resonated with it. So they wanted to support us. It was like, oh, I want to support this brand. I'm a fan of what they're doing, and I want to try their product. So we did that sample program, and then we would hand deliver, and it was just burning too much money. But we actually built momentum. People started seeing us. People started talking about it. And then as we continued to do that, we went to a local bagel shop, which was a friend of ours. He had a small little bagel shop. And he's like, I'll take your product to sell. I can't remember if it was consignment or not, but I think it was. And the idea is he put it in the first day, and we used our storytelling, and it literally sold out within the first couple hours. And there was so much momentum that as we continued to tell that story, and sell out, push people to the stores, it ended up getting us more stores, and everyone was talking about it in our little local community. So we did a ground up game to build energy in the city, getting everyone talking from a local standpoint, and just knocking on the local shops, the bagel shops, the juice bars, the gyms. And we would just be everywhere, demoing everywhere, hand delivering, and showing the story of the good, the bad, the ugly. And all of that together created a magic that allowed us to start to scale slowly, and at least, push through the barriers of the hardship of is to build a business. There's so many odds against you, especially in CPG, and especially in the refrigerated section of a store.
Talk about the hustle, right? I mean, and also I love the no-brainer offer. I mean, listen, just take it, just pay us when you sell these things, and it makes it compelling so you can build on the next one, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Look, no, we had to start somewhere, and one thing that was critical at that time is we blocked out. Like I said it earlier, but we blocked out all the noise. People were always saying maybe it's time to get a job, or this is a side gig, or they were saying these comments that kind of could tick you off very easily. So what my partners and I did, which is my sister, my brother-in-law, is we literally just put horse blinders on, and we blocked it all out. And we really had this delusional belief that it was possible to sell in the first year $250,000 worth of chocolate bars. But that was it, Midday Squares. We could do that. And even though it sounded outrageous, it sounded crazy and almost impossible, we had this bit of hope and optimism that was driving us, alongside our execution, and just, again, unconditional self-belief. And that allowed us to, we blew through that in the first 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And we realized that there was momentum. We realized there was energy. We realized there was this potential for this to go, pretty far. And, I'm proud to say we're almost 7 years in, or 6.5 years in, and we're still standing. We're still surviving. And it's been crazy.
Oh, I know you talk about success and having a great product and having great marketing, right? And I want to talk about the product for a second and the evolution of the product. Initially, you were going door to door in not door to door, but you were delivering in person. What was the feedback you were getting, and how did the product change?
So the product continuously changes, and what I mean by that is just continuous improvements. We try to enhance the product. We learn new information. We try to bring it in. All this stuff is happening consistently throughout the time with our R&D team. But at the beginning, it was just the three of us. So we the product was pretty much the same for a long period of time till we had the resources, information, knowledge, all that stuff. But as we were meeting our customers hand to hand, hand delivering, which was face to face, we would ask them what they liked about it, or when they tried it, to give us the feedback of what they thought. And because we were such a transparent company, because we were so loud and showing, again, the good and the bad, people actually want to share their either constructive criticism or their love for the products. And we would take an immense amount of feedback in, simply because we had communication with our consumers. We were able to have a community that had, that wanted to chat with us, that wanted to engage us, that wanted to help us get better or promote us. And I think that was something that was really critical early on, that we apply a lot of those values to today, is building a community, building a fan base rather than a customer base. And it's critical.
What were they saying? What was some of the feedback that let you kind of change, improve the product? I mean, I see, we're looking at it now, and you could see you have some very interesting, ingredients, right? I mean, there's Jerusalem artichoke powder, right? And I'm sure that wasn't in on the first run. No. You're like, hey, let's sprinkle some Jerusalem artichoke powder in here, right? There's cashew butter. There's really kind of delicious but kind of functional ingredients in here. What was some of the feedback you were getting?
Just, what some of the main feedback was that it's very satiating and it keeps us full in the afternoon, and it's a great afternoon snack. So we kind of, we really leaned into, can we be the, indulgence in the afternoon that also gives you a little bit more than that? So like a little bit of protein, a little bit of fiber, maybe keep you full. And we wanted to just take all that feedback and, optimize people's afternoons, because we realize people have crashes, people get tired, but they want to snack, they want to build. And we would take that and continue to make it better and better. And look, it didn't please everybody. As soon as, we took feedback, you're never going to be able to please everybody. So some people would get upset with the changes. Some people loved the changes. A big change was we went from 2 squares in a package to 1 square in a package, making it smaller. And, a lot of that feedback was from the idea that they were eat 1 square and then put it back in the fridge, fold it up, and then it was less fresh when it came out after. So that was one great feedback. And we actually, when we had a supply chain crisis, we couldn't afford to stay as a 2-pack unless we raised prices significantly. So what we did is we just took all that feedback that we took for so long, and we turned it into one pack. And it ended up, at first hurting us for the first 3 months. And then as consumers got back to, getting used to the product, being in a new format, they ended up loving it. And we ended up selling way more and being a lot better for the use case. And that's just a small example of improvements of listening to your consumers, and also buying data. Data is critical to apply the data and what your community wants, and then apply the magic of the brand to that. And you have what I call the best serendipity in the world. So we continuously try to take feedback in, good, bad, and again, not everyone's going to like a midday square. It's it's dark chocolate. It's got a little bit of protein. It's not it's not a confection product. So it's not for everybody, and that's okay. There's many people in the world, and if you try to please everybody, you really please nobody, right? So, we focus on what our strengths are, and we really have good communication with our community.
You mentioned chaos versus glory, so I want to talk about those two things for a second. Let's start with the chaos, right? Because you guys are totally open through the journey. And one of my favorite stories of chaos, but I want to hear a couple of those kind of points of challenges, was COVID. Those were scary times. Talk about what happened there.
Yeah, COVID was a rough time for our business. Being a food manufacturer, we self-manufacture. We have a great team that works in a manufacturing plant. And when COVID came, we lost 70% of our retail sales like instantaneously. And it was really scary. We were put in a position where, what do we do? What do we do to keep everybody working? And in that moment, there was two things to do. It was either play defense or play offense. And most people are playing defense. I think most brands at the time, were pulling spending back.
Except for toilet paper companies, but yeah.
Except for toilet paper companies and retreating. And what we did was we said, actually, we are going to go on offense. We are going to try to grow during this time when everyone's pulling back. We're going to spend more. We're going to hire more. We're going to innovate. We're going to try to raise capital. And, I'll never forget, we would go to, in Montreal, we'd go to the hospitals and knock on the doors and ask if we could feed the staff, the administrators, security, the nurses, the doctors. And the only reason why we asked them that is we wanted to keep our team employed so that they can continue to work in the manufacturing and not have to be laid off and all that stuff, right? So we ended up feeding a lot of the hospitals here, the staff of the hospitals, and they ended up paying costs for our products, which was great. It was a win-win for everybody. Give great nourishing products to the people working their bums off right now to help everybody, and then also help keep our teammates fully working. And that led to a great momentum shift. And we ended up, again, raising money. We ended up launching a new flavor during that time. We ended up hiring a bunch of folks, and we ended up growing the organization tremendously during that time. But again, that was a moment where we were faced with crisis, and we didn't sit back and stall or sulk. We decided to go on offense. And again, a lot of the time that we've seen success or learnings is when everyone goes one way, we always try to go the other way. And not to be a contrarian, but we believe that typically where the herd goes is actually a more risky strategy, believe it or not. And we've applied that value to a lot of things, and we've been wrong in many occasions, but we've been right more than we are wrong by applying those values.
That's one chaos moment. I want to hear what sticks out to you, but another for me was a potential recall. Yeah, that was another chaos moment.
Yeah, we had a
like, I hear all these stories, Jake. I'm like, forget it. Like, just it's running painful. A business is a no joke here. So,
well, I want to make it clear, entrepreneurship, and I can only speak about this because I've been doing this. I've had three businesses. One which I closed. Two I closed. One was a decent closure, and then one was basically I had to force the closure. And then this one's currently working that I'm on now. So it's been almost 11 years, I'd say, of being an entrepreneur. And what I noticed the common trait is there's a lot of pain. There's a tremendous amount of pain and loneliness and misunderstanding throughout the journey, which you got to be able to withstand immense amounts of pain and pressure if you want to win. And whatever winning is defined everyone has different definitions of winning. But for me, what I learned is if you could withstand pain and you could keep showing up every day, excited for what you get to do, then you're going to give yourself at least a chance at winning. And that's what we're doing at Midday Squares. As hard as it's been with moments like a potential recall that didn't go to a recall because we ended up proving ourselves innocent. And again, consumer safety is the number one priority for at least for us and hopefully for other brands as well. But every moment also makes us stronger. So every chaos we go through, every failure we go through, every learning, it's always a learning, right? Every rejection, every moment that we lose an account, we get rejected from an investor, they always lead to making us stronger. And again, the one who could withstand the most amount of pain the longest usually wins. So, entrepreneurship's a long game. And yes, there's beautiful moments, Jeremy. There's huge moments of crazy milestones and excitement and it's amazing, but there's a lot of pain too. And people always ask you, well, do you regret doing it? And it's absolutely not. I love it. I love the pain is something that you have to start to enjoy. And I wouldn't have it any other way, but that's something about entrepreneurship. And then when you brought up the potential recall, we had a situation where, one of the organizations here basically, tested our products and thought that there was with the test they used, it showed that there could potentially be cross-contamination of another allergen, and that was not declared on our package. And then when we did our testing and we made sure that we did the highest quality testing, so DNA testing, we went all the way to the bottom of the testing, and it was a very hard test to find. We ended up proving that it was the test that was being used actually couldn't decipher between two proteins of certain nuts. So when you did the DNA test, it could actually show the actual difference in the nuts. And we actually had zero of the product that they were talking about, so there was no cross contamination. And we ended up no, it's not a win. It's more just we ended up not doing a recall, and it was a win for our consumers. It was a win for consumer safety. It was a win for our team working so hard to come together in such a very, emergency time. Because again, we would recall any product if we had any problems, because again, consumer safety and quality is number one over anything else. So, yeah, that was a crazy moment, and it ended up tightening our supply chain, tightening our team, our quality and safety teams anyway. So again, every crazy moment usually leads to some sort of opportunity or some sort of learning.
What's interesting about that is, not like you were saying before, not everyone really runs their own manufacturing. So if someone wasn't, they'd be like, oh, maybe there is something going on, but you were running the manufacturer. Like, we don't have that at our facility at all. I found with your company, you go against the grain. Okay. You go against the grain. One of those things is having your own manufacturing. That's not
Yep.
normal. Talk about that decision.
Yeah. And again, you're right with the consumer safety prior, like what you're talking about the recall. I think it's important to say, yeah, we had our manufacturing. So we were able to act really, really quickly in our control and activate, Operation Emergency, let's call it. And that was really something I'm grateful for in terms of the team and having that ability to act like within minutes, basically. So having our own manufacturing was not originally out of choice. It was actually out of necessity. When we were starting, I told you we were in the condo hand making these bars, and we would then hire people to come to the condo and help us make it. And then we went to a little kitchen and had a room of tables and mixers. And we'd have like 26 people, making these bars, getting it to like 3,000 bars max per day. And then as we started to grow, we went to different co-manufacturers across North America and a bit in Europe. And the idea was to go to these co-mans to help us scale this manufacturing process so they would deal with it as a third party. And we would focus on building Midday Squares as brand, innovation, sales, marketing, you name it, just growth specifically. And they would handle the operational aspect. But as we went to these co-manufacturers, every time we went there, the product would come out as a different product. It wouldn't be the Midday Square that we loved, the Midday Square that we were making in our condo. And it wouldn't even be close, by the way.
Quality control was just not there.
It wasn't there. So we had two options. They said either you invest in helping us figure out how to make this at scale with machinery, which is a very big investment, or you change the product and you make it more like XYZ that they were coming up with, or you don't work with us and you take a chance on building your manufacturing, and there's a high risk on that. And as crazy as we are, we decided, again, we want to stay true to the product that we had. We believed it was innovation. And my sister ended up working with engineers across all over and built a manufacturing a line that can manufacture now, like we said, 130,000 bars a day, and hopefully more, as we get, better and better, more optimized, more. But, we built a fully automated plant here in Montreal that now, is basically one of the cores of our business. And it's been extremely painful. It's taken 90% of our resources. So a lot of resources haven't gone into sales growth and like innovation or marketing, simply because it has to go towards making sure the plant is operating, because without the product, you have nothing, right? So that's been something that I'm excited for, the day that we start to balance the expenditure and it goes to not just ops, but it goes into growth, sales, marketing, innovation, which is very soon.
Yeah, I mean, well, part of that I see, at least from my viewpoint, you know better, but that's caused you to find lots of channels that maybe you wouldn't have explored if you had revenue. Like, you're going on social, you're just hustling out there everywhere on the internet to spread the word. So maybe that would have happened, maybe it wouldn't have happened. I don't know. Do you decide to raise money at that point? You're like, okay, we need to build this manufacturing. We need money. What point do you decide, okay, we need more resources?
Well, yeah, we each put a decent amount of money in to get the business going. So that's like to get the initial start. But then when we wanted to build a facility, it was quite expensive. And we ended up raising over $4 million from our local government here and our federal government on debt. So it was debt to build infrastructure. And it was a great program, by the way. There's a group called Investissement Quebec. And their goal was to create jobs and create some momentum and innovation in the city or the province. I guess you guys call it a state. So yeah, we got that debt, which was which was really beneficial. And again, it was from the local government mostly, which is something unique because it's like your state government, lending a company money, and not the federal necessarily. So it was our state government, our provincial government that lent us that capital to go build this facility out. And it was fascinating. We ended up doing it over like a 2-year span, and we got it running. And the moment we actually got the first bars running through, it was just a monumental moment showing that anything's possible. Everyone told us it was impossible. Everyone said that it's going to be too hard to do, too risky, too expensive. And we had a thesis, we had a vision, we executed, and it actually got done. And even behind me, like where I am now, like multiple rooms behind me, we have our manufacturing plant. And sometimes I'll just go there to feel the energy. It's so cool to see a product go from, ingredients to a finished product leaving the building, right? And there's so much that goes into it that people don't see. And we don't show a lot of that on social media because obviously there's trade secrets and know-hows that we don't want to share, that we've worked really hard on. But, when people come see it in person, they're like, this is so cool. And I think it's one of our prouder moments in our business.
I think, Jake, in the against the grain, it sticks out manufacturing. The second thing against the grain that sticks out to me is raising money. How you raised money, and one of them involves a boombox. Okay, do you want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah, I'm a huge believer in being yourself unapologetically in both the corporate world and the personal world. And why I say that is because you are your best version when you are you, and that's been a huge mission of mine, is to inspire the world to lean more into themselves, to be unapologetic, and that's really how you win the game of life, whatever again you deem as winning. But one day we were raising money, and this is money that was not going into the manufacturing, it was going to growth of business, and it was from venture capitals. And we went to go meet one of our investor groups. And because I love dancing, I love music, that is who I am. I take my shirt off in grocery stores, I dance, I have fun, I don't care. That's who I am. I like to spread that energy. I decided before going into one of our first venture capital meetings with a group, called Boulder Food Group, who's an unbelievable group. And I went, before going there, I brought a boombox, and I told my partners, just follow along as we go into this boardroom. We're just going to dance. And this was the first formal meeting. We're going to dance, have fun, let loose, go crazy. And it's going to be really awkward, but it's going to bring the energy out. It's going to show our authenticity. And my partners felt really uncomfortable, but they followed along because they, again, when we trust each other.
I mean, what did your sister say that? Like, Jake, don't do it. Or what was her reaction to it?
They were just uncomfortable. They're like, are you sure? Gotcha. But they're like, we'll go along with it, or like something like that, because we love you, or like we trust you. Anyways, they did, and I'm grateful. But I went in at first by myself. I think the first thing was me by myself. And then I just started losing it, dancing, blasting music, and everyone started dancing, having fun, laughing, good vibes. And it took the meeting from formal to informal really quickly, and just made them feel who we are, and the energy and the boldness. And we ended up partnering with them on our first financing. They were our first investors. And I'll never forget that moment. Again, what's most important about life is how you make people feel. No one can copy how you make people feel. So you might as well try to lean into that, and dancing and boomboxes and having fun is part of my my why, my superpower. So that was a critical moment, and I'll never forget.
I picture like in a movie, right? Either goes really bad or really good at this point, for you, luckily it went really, really well. Another against the grain that sticks out about your product is refrigerated, right? It's tough logistically. Talk about that decision to, okay, this is going to be a refrigerated product, right? Because most on the market are not.
Yeah, that's I like that you bring that up. So for us, we chose to be refrigerated. And the reason being is, number one, we're very bullish on fresh snacking. So the idea of snacks that are going to be in refrigerators. I think that's where the modern day snacking is moving, because of the psychology of the consumer, right? So they want to eat more products that, in my opinion, that are cleaner or have a more natural feel to it. That being said, the supply chain is extremely difficult when you do refrigeration. There's limited space in the fridge. And sometimes you get put in a dairy section, sometimes you get put in the grab and go, sometimes you get put in the produce. So there's a lack of consistency.
They don't know where to put you.
Yeah, there's a lack of consistency, which causes a lot harder time for the consumer to find your product. So at the end of the day, for us, we we chose that. And, we were inspired by a company called Perfect Snacks, who've been doing it for like 20 plus years, who did a phenomenal job in building this refrigerated category. And now it's becoming more and more and more popular, where you have more brands entering, you have more space being built, there's more consistency happening. And we've seen consumers choose fresh snacking, very rapidly. And yeah, that was a bold decision. And it's also like, where all the bars are in the store, there's like almost like a decision fatigue. If you go there, there's so many bars. So being somebody else is more outlier. It's
Less
more,
competition, totally.
yes. But now there's more competition coming in, and it's exciting because the more competition that comes in, the more the market grows, the more and more consumers come to the set, and it becomes a destination.
I mean, I view it also as a little bit of a moat because, I mean, there's, midday squares and there's not like a sea of bars near it, or at least from my vantage point.
Yeah, and like, look, it's also our bars don't have preservatives or additives, so the preservative or additive is the refrigerator.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about some glory for a second. I've bombarded you with the people hearing about the challenge stories. We're already getting stressed out about it, but glory. One of them is launching in Target. Talk about that.
Yeah, so Target's been a great partner of ours. We've been hustling, and we worked hard on that account for a very long time. And again, it was very depth into relationship building, focusing on how can we work with them and understand. And they were actually one of our first nationwide retailers across the United States, and they took a chance on us, but not just a chance. They actually went full throttle and gave us the opportunity to go into 1,700 stores off the bat, which is huge. Which is basically across all states. And that was a huge moment for us. And I'll never forget, we were in local retailers across the nation prior to that. And then suddenly we just got across the whole nation really quickly, and we had to support it. So it was kind of one of those moments where you either meet up to it or you don't. And our team, felt the momentum. They worked extremely hard, and we said yes, and we went full throttle, and it was a crazy experience. And today, we sell many, many bars with them. We have many SKUs with them. We've grown the account. Just last week, I think we had over 50,000 bars sold, across the Target last week, which was super cool. And I think that what's unique about our partnership is, it's been a two-way road, meaning the communication has been two ways. And I'm grateful for that, because when you have a two-way communication, you can work out problems, you can work out opportunities, you can work out how to win more. And that's what we've done. So shout out to the Target team, shout out to our brokers, Moscow, who we've worked with, with Target. And I hope we continue to build that partnership. And another really interesting partnership that I'd like to mention that was a huge milestone for us that we worked extremely hard on for such a long period of time, similar to the amount of time we worked on Target, was Costco Canada. Costco Canada is we worked 2.5 3 years on that account, and we were rejected, and then we did a roadshow to prove ourselves, and we ended up blowing up the roadshow using social media.
When you say roadshow, basically you're standing like your staff are in Costco handing out things.
Us, or we went almost every day. Yeah. So we would do the hand-to-hand, meet the Costco members, understand what their feedback was, what they liked, what was the right price point. And you would sell one store at a time for like 12 days or 13 days. I can't remember exact amount. And, it's basically a test, right? Do the Costco members like it or not? And we blew it out of the water. And Costco took note, and eventually, that kind of led us to have a little bit of leverage in conversation after being rejected in the past, to get in. And it kind of showed that their members actually do want it. And I would say that was one of the craziest moments, because it taught us that you're not going to get everything the way you want at first, and you have to work really, really hard and get creative and de-risk it as much as possible for your partner. And that's what we did. And Costco Canada has become a phenomenal partner. And that's not to say that we don't have, all of our partners have been phenomenal, to be honest with you, from the mom and pop shops all the way to the large grocery stores. Everyone's been great.
I remember I had one of the people of Yes To on the podcast, Yes To products, and they said the same. Like when they were trying to get into Walgreens, they got a test store, and they just blasted social media and just got as many people into that store as possible, like just to drive that demand. And they'd hustle to get that first one, and then obviously leverage for the other one. So I love that. story. The other glory is celebrities. Okay, at least I see it. Celebrities are talking, talk about you. Talk about some of the people that just talk about midday squares.
Yeah, I think instead of talking about celebrities, luckily we have some amazing folks in that world that have eaten midday squares and have talked about it. I think where I like to talk about more is actually not them. They've been great, but more on our community has been some of the biggest catalysts for our business. Meaning, you know, our community, the everyday people that eat our products at their offices, take it to work, they eat it on the go. When they're traveling, they advocate for us at a level that it's unheard of, and they have gotten us, millions on millions of views organically. They have convinced not just individuals to buy our product, but to have investors invest in our company, to have media cover our business, to have retailers partner with us because they've gone to do the work because they feel part of what we're doing. And I think that's the power of community, is when you get people to believe in what you're doing, not just buy your products, but to believe in it, they will do a lot more than just purchase or transaction. They will go out there and advocate. They will go out there and build for you. And that's something that I think Midday Squares has put a lot of time into, is trying to communicate human to human with our community as much as we can, and taking the time and actually caring. And when we do that, we actually see that the consumer feels like they're buying from a friend, or they're buying from a family member, they're buying from a neighbor, and that allows us to grow so much more, and create such an awareness that is not replicable unless you are real and authentic and human, and building something meaningful.
We are talking about this journey, and when you say pain, what immediately goes to my mind is therapy, right?
Yep.
And therapy has been a big part of the journey personally and as a company. I know that just a family business is tough. What are and I don't know if you still do this, but you and your co-founders, sister and brother-in-law went together just to make sure everything was solid. What were some of the things that you would go over? Like, what was the format of those sessions with the three of you?
Yeah, therapy has been some of the best investment we've made in our company to date, other than innovation, manufacturing, and storytelling, which are all, I guess most of those are equal. But I think investment in therapy has allowed us to survive and thrive as leaders and as humans. And for us, we've been going to therapy together since day one. My partners and I, since the beginning. And once every 10 days or so, 7 to 10 days, for communication, alignment, working through hard conversations, making sure we stay aligned, that we believe in each other, and that we're honest and we're communicating. Because there's nothing worse than a partnership that fails because of a lack of communication or tension buildup. We wanted to prevent that at all costs, because we are family, we love each other, we're best friends. But also to protect the partnership and actually build as leaders, as executives in a company, and become better communicators. And that's what we've done. And we still do it to date together, the three of us. We also do it individually, and we sometimes do it with our partners in life. But therapy has been one of those the greatest investments in terms of return on investment of life. And I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I wasn't prior to this. And I think without that, we wouldn't be here today. So
how did you come to that decision to just start at day one?
My partner Nick, my brother-in-law, suggested it because he's had prior businesses, and communication is usually the prereq for success. Strong communication is prereq for success, and a way to protect communication is to work through it in a guided professional way, in a safe zone, and come up with the tools. And he started to learn that prior to Midday Squares. So he wanted to apply it to this. And the deal was that if I go to therapy with them, with my partners, once every 7 to 10 days, in good or bad times, that they would commit to my strategy, which was basically, my proposal was, we're going to document and share everything on social media, sharing a little bit of a private life or personal life. And originally they weren't comfortable with that, but they committed to that, and I committed to therapy, and that worked out to be 2 great investments we've made, and we continue to do to date.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. What surprised you, or what surprised your audience of some of the things that you've shared and the company shared on a private level?
I think, sharing, burnouts and things that we've gone through that can make us, in quotations, look weaker, which is incorrect. Sharing those journeys have been, scary, vulnerable, but the support and the relatability and trust that it builds with our community, whether that be investors, whether that be retail partners, whether that be customers, it's fascinating. That's been the biggest surprise, is the amount of support and the amount of humanizing business, how powerful that can be in scaling an organization.
One of the parts I like about your story is leaning into your strengths and you coming to terms with there's things you're good at and there's things you're not good at. And I remember I was listening to a video, you said, I was not a good manager. I think that's what you said. Anyways, talk about that realization, and then we'll talk about kind of how you decided to play to your strengths and really focus on that.
Yeah. So for me, I stepped down. I was started as a CMO because I co-founded the business with my partners, my sister and brother-in-law, and they are co-CEOs. And I decided to be a CMO because I wanted a title, a big title, to be honest. Like, my ego was driving that. And I was doing a little bit of the marketing, but I ended up being a horrible manager, and I ended up stepping down from that after, I don't know, 8 or so months and tons of therapy, of realizing that I'm actually playing to my weaknesses, not my strengths. And my strengths were something about, building community, building the network of the brand, being out there, being loud, and being a manager and running the, playbook on that side was actually not good for me. And people were, not happy with that. And I was doing a horrible job. And I ended up stepping down and kind of wanted to be managed. And even though I owned a big part of the business at the time, when we started it, I was okay with it, because when you lean into your strengths, that's when you become your best. When you're playing to your weakness and trying to fit that in and forcing it, that's when things collapse. And so I stepped down and I became a Rainmaker. That's my job today. Is I am one of the Rainmaker. I am a Rainmaker. I make friends for Midday Squares. I bring in, network. I bring in the relationships. I make as much noise as possible, and it's paid off in 20 folds, in the 100 folds. And I feel free. I feel free to be me and free to do what I do best. And I think everyone in the world should take a close look at what they're doing, whether they're at a company, whether they're, unemployed, whether they're building a business, starting a podcast. And if you don't love what you do and you're not playing your strengths, and it's time to move on. If you are playing to your strengths, just keep building and keep investing in that, because that's the highest reward you're ever going to get.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think about that a lot, because I think sometimes I try to improve. Maybe I just need to just not do it and let someone else do it. I want to know your favorite products, right? One, I want to know your favorite flavor of Midday Squares, because I was saying mine is cookie dough. And then I want to talk about, just in general, what are some of your favorite healthy products on the market that you like?
Yeah, so I'm actually allergic to my own product. I'm allergic to peanuts and nuts. So I've actually not had a chance to eat Midday Squares, which is crazy. I started a company.
That is crazy.
Yeah, but I believe in my consumers, and I believe in our R&D team so much that, and I believe in you when you tell me you like the cookie dough.
So there's not going to be like a non-nut one at some point.
Maybe one day that could be it'll be a dream of mine, but it's just, we need another facility, another line. Like it might just take time.
Very logistically complicated. Yeah.
Yeah. So other products I like, I'm a huge fan of like good old things like Perrier. I'm also a huge fan of candy, believe it or not, like Sour Patch Kids. And I find those delicious, and I just can't help myself, good or bad. And I'd say other things is Chomps is one of my favorite products on the market right now, which is a meat snack.
Oh, yeah.
I never ate meat snacks before, and having that is just, it's been phenomenal throughout my life. And I love it. I just love the product. I love the brand. I love the people behind it. And so I'd say that.
That's one of my favorites too. Love it. One last question, Jake. First of all, thanks for sharing your journey. And if anyone could check out Midday Squares, go to middaysquares.com, go to your local store. It's probably in there. I'm sure it is. And just check out their social channels, because they document and share pretty much everything, I would say. And, last question is mentors for you, Jake, in your life and business. Who's been mentors for you, and maybe a great piece of advice or lesson that you learned from them?
Yeah, 100%. So mentorship to me is both physical and digital. So I have hundreds of mentors that I work with that I don't work with, that I just take in knowledge from on social media. So anyone from like
I love
Richard
your
Branson,
favorites. Yeah.
Richard Branson. I don't know anyone. I have all these people that I follow, like, Tiger Woods. I'm a huge fan of, and these are mentors of mine because sometimes they share their journey, they share their state of mind. They have books, they have these things. So they are mentors because they're passing information on to me. And, I don't take all of it. I take the good stuff that I appreciate from it. And then physically, I have, my board member, David Cinnamons is a beautiful character, a beautiful guy. He allows me to think bigger. And then I have just a ton of friends and colleagues that just inspire me on a daily. So I think mentorship is not so much just having people physically, but you can have it through books, through the internet, through social media. And you just got to choose what you're looking for.
Totally agree. Are there anyone, I know you're very active on LinkedIn. Is there anyone?
Mike Fata is a good friend of mine and a mentor. He's built an amazing business called Manitoba Harvest, and he continues to live a very wellness style lifestyle that I love. And he just has a work ethic that is fascinating and execution level that's fascinating. And I meet with him a lot. We're really close friends. So he's been a great mentor throughout this process as well.
Love it. Jake, I want to be the first one to thank you. Everyone check out Midday Squares, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks so much.
You're a rock star.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like 100 grand.